Good evening. Hope everybody is doing well. I spent largely another day waiting on a verdict that never came. Some of you may have found yourself doing the same. I don't know what to think about this case as far as what's going to be the outcome. One second. Because I honestly thought it was going to be a pretty quick thing, but apparently it's not. So there's a lot of stuff we got to talk about tonight. I do want to start off discussing that a little bit, and then we'll get into the topic that the show is titled after, which we've got quite a bit to talk about along those lines. And then I've got some other information for you as well, too, before the headlines. So, wow, trial today. So, outside, there were tensions for sure. Two people wound up getting arrested. One of them grabbed a sign and tore a sign up, possibly two of them. And then I'm pretty sure one of them assaulted a reporter. So that happened today outside of the courtroom. Inside of the courtroom was not much less hectic. The jury had come back with several questions, from my understanding. Different occasions, not all at once, and some interesting revelations came out today. The video file that the defense had been working with this entire time was not the same, well, one of the video files, I should say, was not the same video file that the prosecution had. The prosecution had a full HD, full color, uncompressed copy of this video. However, the defense got a compressed it was just in relation to the copy that the prosecution had. The defense had a horrible copy. So that is an important note. The defense did file another motion for a dismissal, this time without prejudice. Now, you may remember that once before they had filed a motion for dismissal with prejudice. Now, that was before deliberations started, and that was over the fact that the prosecution was questioning the defendant's First Amendment rights, essentially. You can't do that. That's a big no-no. So, at that time, the defense, filed a motion for dismissal with prejudice, and then today, in light of this revelation over this video, they filed another motion for dismissal, this time without prejudice. So, the judge did indicate that, more or less, I would take it that if it came back a guilty verdict, or whatever the case may be, the judge is going to kind of take a look at everything himself, so to speak. I really do think that from everything I've seen, I really do think this judge is trying to do the right thing, and I think he's trying to make the right calls. He's in a tough spot, and if you've been around here long, you know I'm not a big supporter of this government and or its branches, because there's so much corruption that's run amok in every single branch of our government that it is near to impossible to be correctly represented on any level, whether it's on a legislative level, whether it's on a judicial level, there's little chance you're going to be truly represented. And so, again, this is a big case. This is, people, I'm sure around the world are actually watching this case. And that's not a particular time that any judge wants to make big mistakes. So I'm sure that he may even be on a much better behavior than what he may normally be without having cameras pointed at him. So, nonetheless, it appears that he's trying to do everything correctly. We'll see. We'll see what's to come. Tomorrow they start again at 9 a.m. and go from there, I guess. So hopefully tomorrow there can be some type of resolution. Of course, I've got my opinion. I've got my feelings. I hope he's found not guilty. All we can do is see. If there was another trial, it wouldn't be the most horrible thing to happen. But I would much prefer see it wrapped up and done. I'm sure many people would, especially Mr. Rittenhouse, his mother, and I get it. I get that individuals had lost their lives here, and I get that emotions are going to run high regardless when something like that happens. What I don't get is how an individual can take a look at the video, all the different video footage, the evidence, and all of that, and not see it for what it was. I mean, you have to severely disillusion yourself in order not to see a clear-cut case of self-defense there. I mean, that's like, in my opinion, from what it appeared, it looked pretty much textbook self-defense. So we'll see what happens. But anyway, like I said, I've got much more stuff to cover. I just wanted to touch on that. Because again, it's something that I'm sure many of us have been watching closely. I have a sip of coffee here. So you may remember, not that long ago, Bill Gates, he had been talking about smallpox. In fact, I didn't bring any links up to this. Let me bring up the browser window here. Let me go ahead and put this in. Oops. Bill Gates. And I'll just put in smallpox. I'll put in warning. Smallpox warning. Okay. So right here, this is November 9th of 2021. Pardon me. And it says, Bill Gates warns of smallpox terror attacks as he seeks research funds. Okay? So Bill Gates is warning about a smallpox terror attack as he seeks research funds. Righto. Well, that might be a little hard from my understanding of the situation. Because, from my understanding, there are only 2 places on the entire planet that you can have authorization to have smallpox. Only 2 places. Where do I get that information? Well, from an article that came out today that, interestingly enough, it's titled, FBI and CDC investigate smallpox vials at big pharma facility, says the media. Huh. You don't say. So let's see what the article does say. The FBI and CDC have launched a probe after several questionable vials labeled as smallpox were discovered in a freezer at a lab near Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, according to an alert obtained by Yahoo News. The 15 mysterious vials were found on Tuesday night at a Merck laboratory, according to an unclassified alert sent to the Department of Homeland Security and seen by the outlet. 5 of the ampules carried labels reading smallpox, while another 10 were said to contain vaccinia virus, the source for the modern smallpox immunization. The vials were reportedly secured immediately, and the facility was briefly placed on lockdown. While that has since been lifted, federal law enforcement, as well as Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, have opened investigations which are ongoing. The CDC is set to take possession of the vials sometime on Wednesday, according to the alert, which also noted that no Merck staff were exposed to the materials. While it remains unclear exactly where the containers were found, Merck runs 2 major facilities in Pennsylvania, one in West Point, its largest pharmaceutical manufacturing site, and another in nearby Upper Gwynedd, a 90-acre campus housing a research lab. Smallpox is a deadly infectious disease caused by the variola virus, which carries a mortality rate of around 30%. According to the FDA, though the agency said that some less common forms of the illness are usually fatal. While the last naturally occurring case of smallpox was recorded in the 1970s, with the disease largely eradicated through global vaccination campaigns, 2 labs are still authorized to store samples of the pathogen for research purposes, including a site in Siberia, Russia, and another at the CDC headquarters in Atlanta, Georgia. And I know I did see another name for where it's allowed to be stored in Russia, and it was something a little different than Siberia, but nonetheless, Russia, United States, 1 facility each, that's it. Nobody else is supposed to have these smallpox pathogens, if you will, in their possession. So I have to ask the questions, how is it that they've got these? And the first question is, are they legitimate? Are they real? We have to ask that question. I don't have the answer to that right now. Hopefully they'll release that information. Hopefully it'll be truthful, honest information that they do release. But at this point in time, I can't tell you whether for a fact it's what it is labeled or whether it's water. Who knows? But I have a feeling that we'll find out. Now, back to this Bill Gates thing. Man, I don't believe in coincidences that big. And there has been talk here and there. People, just kind of talk. That's all. People concerned with this being a possibility of what could go down, releasing specifically smallpox. Who knows? But I found this very, very interesting, especially in light of everything else going on right now involving health issues that I certainly didn't want to miss discussing this. I wanted to make sure to have it at the forefront and for individuals to hear this, because those folks that hear this or somebody else talking about this, if something just disastrous would happen along these lines, you'll know the information, you'll remember, and you'll have a good idea of, or at least a good suspicion anyway, of what really went down. That's important, right? If you get hit, right, it's probably important to know who hit you. I'm just saying. I mean, you can throw blind punches all you want, but it's much better off to know exactly who it was, who hit you, and how do they do it, and whatever from there, right? So it's important to know these bits of information that's going on. And like I say, that article was just from what, a couple of weeks or so, a week or two ago, on Bill Gates and his warning about smallpox, and now this. So my question is: he going to be investigated for this? I doubt it. I doubt it. But I'm just saying. We do have good news, however, when it comes to medical procedures, especially ones that may not be so wanted. This came out, and I know the headline says Biden administration suspends vaccine mandate for businesses. I don't know if that's technically accurate or not. I will say that OSHA had suspended the vaccine mandate for businesses. OSHA has said that they are not going to enforce it at this time. And, of course, there's the ongoing court battle with the situation. But as the article says here, enforcement of President Joe Biden's COVID-19 vaccine mandate for large employers has been suspended 11 days after a U.S. appeals court froze the order on grave statutory and constitutional issues. And then it just says, I'm not going to read the whole article, it just says the Occupational Safety and Health Administration has posted a notice on its website saying the agency suspended implementation and enforcement of the vaccine mandate for employers with 100 or more workers. The OSHA argued that it remains confident in its authority to protect workers in emergencies, but noted that the U.S. Court of Appeals of the Fifth Circuit, ordered the administration to halt enforcement of Biden's mandate until a further ruling is made. So, therefore, that is definitely a step in the right direction. Here's the crazy thing. And I can't get this out of my head. I think about this over and over and over when I think about this subject, per se. So, what about the individuals that have already lost their jobs over all of this? What about them? What about the ones that will lose their jobs anyway because the employer decides, well, I don't give a damn what court rules what or whatever, I'm mandating it. What about the jobs lost through that? I've got tons of questions when it comes to whatabouts, when it comes to all of this stuff. But the biggest one that haunts me is what about those that, like I say, have already lost their jobs, have already lost their livelihoods as a result of the madness that's going on? Are they going to be compensated, or are they going to, be remedied in any way? I think that's important to ask. I think anybody with a sane mind and a constitutional understanding knows just how big of an overreach that this was. And I am confident if this country can hold itself together and not explode or implode, either one, beforehand, I am very confident that there will be a lot of individuals that is behind this in court. And I think it will be criminal courts. And I think it's gonna go far. I do. And I think we just might be starting to see a turnaround on this, and we might be seeing that turnaround. Again, what about all those that's lost their livelihoods already? I have to bring up another point of interest that is in the news, something that I've touched on, and in fact, The community guidelines strike that we got was me talking in a similar, I will say, parallel reference to this headline that came out today. Another good news headline. U.S. state representatives vote to compensate vaccine-related injuries due to mandates. Says, Idaho State House passed legislation that would enable people to receive workers' compensation if they fall ill due to mandated COVID-19 shot, with the bill finding bipartisan support in the Republican-dominated state. Approved overwhelmingly in a 67-3 vote on Tuesday, House Bill 417 seeks to amend Idaho's code pertaining to workers' compensation to provide that vaccine-related accidents or injuries shall be compensable. Wouldn't that be compensatable? I don't know. By employers or insurers. If the employer is telling you you have to do this in order to work here, if they're doing that, then by golly, I think our system ought to provide a fair compensation method, Democratic Representative John Gannon said in support of the measure. So yeah, again, another positive step in a positive direction. But again, I was making it in reference as to, like, if somebody was say really wanting to go to a concert or something like that, and so that's why they chose to receive the medical procedure, and then if they got injured, I'm gonna stop there. I'm just gonna throw on the brakes right there, because I this is like deja vu here. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know if the proposition, if you will, the situation that I put out there, I don't know if that's how much of a reality that is, but it's good to see state representatives putting stuff like this in, because again, this is just another way that through all this nightmare that somebody can lose their livelihood. I mean, if you have permanent injuries and you can no longer perform the functions that you did before, perform the same duties, you should be compensated for that. I mean, that's no different than your boss mandating you go up to the 38th story and throw yourself out the window. Right? I mean, if you were ordered to do it and got injured as a result of doing it, that deserves compensation. Oh, let's see. Now the other, on another note, when it comes to the vaccination situation and the labor issue, because I'm sure, as you're well aware, there's a huge labor shortage, and there's companies that are offering all kinds of different benefits, bonuses, all kinds of shiny aluminum foil and things to get them to come in and apply or put in their resume, and a lot of employers are still reporting that they're just not getting the applicants. And so they've done everything. I mean, I've saw some pretty hefty sign-on bonuses and fringe benefits and stuff to get people just to walk through the door and try. Well, now there's a new thing that employers are doing, and I actually, I absolutely stand behind this one. This one's awesome. There's a new thing that employers are doing, and you see it right there. No vaccine required is the latest tactic to attract workers. So now I guess they're advertising that you don't have to be vaxxed. So this is what the article says. And I'm not going to read it all, but in the search for workers in this tight labor market, companies have courted new hires with promise of higher wages, sign-on bonuses, ample vacation time, and childcare. The latest, no vaccine required. That three-word phrase is popping up across online job listings, sometimes emphatically in all caps and accompanied with exclamation marks, as businesses seek to turn the federal government's proposed vaccine decree on its head and attract employees, notably those from the talent pool that's been turned off or turned away from employers that require COVID-19 vaccination. Under the series of federal regulations, which have met some legal challenges that could delay or stop their implementation, private businesses with more than 100 employees, certain healthcare workers, and federal contractors will be required to be fully vaccinated or, in some cases, undergo regular testing for the COVID-19 virus. Anyway, no need to really read on. I'm sure it's going to rehash some of the same stuff you've only heard about 10 million times over the last 2 years. So no need to do that once again. You get the point, and I think this is another way that you can see the incredible resistance to this that is going on. I don't think that we as citizens have any idea, as far from a true aesthetic value that we can see. I don't think any of us have any idea just how much resistance there is to this. I think it's being hidden from us. I think that they are. I think there's far more than what we see. I think they're doing everything they can with algorithms on social media websites, and certainly the media and their reporting is going to be as swayed as they can make it. And I don't think that we would have an easy time getting a good feel for just how much resistance there is to this. But there's a bunch of things that we can witness going on that are clear indicators of the amount of resistance. And I mean, the ways that people are resisting this. I mean, this in my opinion, this is resistance. Even if it's trying to take advantage of a job market, which I'm sure that's part of it too, it's also resistance. Because think about it. If these employers were interested in only having vaccinated workers, they sure in the hell wouldn't be specifically hiring people that likely don't have one and don't plan on getting one. Wouldn't make sense for them. It's just going to cause them more trouble. So anyway, I wanted to certainly bring this up, and I've got one more article dealing with vaccines and whatnot that I wanted to bring up, and I thought that this was pretty insane. To be honest, when I sit back again, as I've said a bunch of times, I do everything I can to pull as much emotion out of an article, a story, an event. I try to pull out as much emotion as I can and just look at it for what it is. And so this next story, all I can do is just kind of look at the media with that dumbfounded look. Hang on, let me have a sip of coffee. We'll get there. Let's see. Anti-vaccination protest at vaccine clinic criticized for intimidating children. Now, right off, you might think, well, if there's people walking around with signs and I don't know if they're chanting, yelling things, what they're doing, if there's people doing that, well, yeah, intimidating children, that's horrible. That's horrible. They shouldn't be doing that. They shouldn't be doing that. Let's read into this a little bit, and then I've got a question to ask you. Okay? Remember, there's a test. I've got a question. Then this isn't a very long article, so I'm just going to read through the article real quick. Members of the St. Charles County Parents Association held an anti-vaccine protest at a vaccination clinic Tuesday for children aged 5 to 11 in O'Fallon, Missouri. By the way, like I said, it's hard for us to be able to gauge how much resistance there is to this. I bet pretty much every locality, their news channels, if you will, news outlets, are reporting stories like this locally and only locally. Just saying. One concerned parent who heard about the protest went to the Missouri branch of the St. Charles City County Library to see it for herself. Amy Robertson said she watched as children walked up to the building with their parents and appeared to be frightened when they saw the protesters. Don't forget, I've got a question. There's no way that's not intimidating to a little kid who's already scared and now questioning, is my mommy going to give me something that could hurt me? Said Robertson. I've got a big question. About a dozen protesters held signs that read, "Vaccination equals depopulation," and "No jabs, no tests, fake." And it had a syringe with a red substance in it. I'm getting scared here setting. I'm starting to sweat. I'm worried. Another sign said, "Protect children." Now, who in the hell would write something like that on a sign? Protect children? I mean, that's like obscene. Anyway, another parent with concerns about the protest, Emily Winham, told News 4, notice how they found a bunch of people that had concerns, told News 4, I wonder if they've got very much from the protest. No? Okay, just wondering. Let's see, another parent with concerns about the protest, told News 4 that people who don't want to be vaccinated will often say that their choice should be respected, but she said the protest showed a lack of respect for parents who choose to get themselves and their children vaccinated. Stop. Okay. There is a difference when there is a consenting adult than what there is when there is a minor child. Not all consenting adults have a damn clue in their head. I'm just saying, I'm stating a fact. I am stating a fact. They can cry me a river. Man, there's countries suspending. Anyway, continuing. I know that they've got a right to do this, but that doesn't make it the correct thing to do morally, she said. Oh, really? Yeah, right, I know. The group behind the protest is the same group that's suing St. Charles County government and the county health department over school quarantine rules. News 4 reached out to the group to get a comment about the protest. Oh, yeah, but they haven't received a response yet. Now, they couldn't have walked up and asked them when they were there, interviewing the people that didn't want them there. I guess they couldn't have walked up and said, anyway, Robertson said she respects the group's First Amendment rights to express their stance on vaccination, but said it was wrong to do it in a place where the protest risks frightening children. I've still got a question. Don't forget, got one more paragraph. The St. Charles County Parents Association website shows the group is planning another protest at the St. Peter's Library branch on Monday. Robertson said she plans to hold a counter-protest using bubble makers, music, and fist bumps to encourage the children and distract them, bred in circuses, from the protesters. I'm sorry, I added a few words in there. I'm sorry. It just fell out. Oh, that's right, I had a question, didn't I? Throughout this article, not a very big article, but I heard over and over and over about the fear of the children from these protesters. Actually peaceful protesters, not mostly peaceful protesters that is burning and, looting shit. No, not mostly peaceful protesters, but actually peaceful protesters. I don't know why, but I felt I needed to make that distinction. What about hypochondriac parents that have had their faces glued to the television news for the last 2 years and absolutely horrifying their children over something that very, very, very few of them would have to worry about? That's my question. How come the parents get a 2-year pass on this, and the media, I mean, because they're the ones that's stoking the fire, how come they all get a 2-year pass on this, but truly peaceful protesters, well, they're the bad guys and girls? Just know there is a lot of resistance. There is what seems to me to be a good amount of footing that's getting had here, if you will. I actually, at this point, see a little bit of hope when it comes to all this mandate business, and we'll see. We'll see, because I also look, at what's going on in other nations, and it's mind-blowing. It looks like there's a lot of countries that's going to be in these massive lockdowns here really quick. And, I'm sure there's no guarantees that we won't be here in this country. Especially for all of us, because of all of us horrible, horrible people that do our own homework. So, I guess we'll shift gears here. I just got a short moment to talk about this subject. But I have been repeatedly discussing about our inability to be able to defend ourselves at this particular time, especially when it comes to don't tell me my iPad Pro is ready to ship, you scamming little... I get these text messages all the time, and they're from email addresses, not phone numbers. And they're scams. But anyway, China and Russia have really improved their first strike capabilities in the recent years with the hypersonic missiles that they've developed. And China, of course, recently tested one of those systems, in which it had a very impressive success. And so this is something that's really concerning our government, and it's coming up in the Pentagon once again. And so I wanted to bring it up since it was in the news today. If I can get my phone to switch over. It's going to make me do it with my mouse. Fine, go there. Alright, as it says, Pentagon's top general reveals whether China can hit U.S. first. And I'll go ahead and read the article. It's not a whole lot. U.S. Air Force General John Hyten, Vice Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, says the Pentagon is very concerned about China's recent hypersonic missile test. He called it a first-use weapon in a potential nuclear clash. That's a very significant capability that has the potential to change a lot of things, Hyten told CBS News in an exclusive interview aired Tuesday evening. According to him, China launched a long-range missile that around the world dropped off a hypersonic glide vehicle that glided all the way back to China where it made an impact. Asked if the warhead hit the target, Hyten replied, "Close enough." Hyten has been the second highest ranked general since November 2019. Prior to that, he headed the U.S. Strategic Command, chiefly responsible for Washington's nuclear force. He also headed USAF's Space Command, which has since been upgraded to Space Force. Why are they building all this capability? They look like a first-use weapon, Hyten told CBS. That's what those weapons look like to me. Officially, Beijing has denied Western media reports of the hypersonic missile test, with the foreign ministry saying it was a space vehicle instead. Meanwhile, the editor-in-chief of the state-backed Global Times Daily said that China is not interested in a stupid nuclear arms race with the U.S. I know that the U.S. can destroy China 10 times, but we will make sure we have full capability to destroy the U.S. once, Hu Jin said last month on Twitter. Joint Chiefs Chairman General Mark Milley has described the Chinese test as very close to a Sputnik moment, referring to the 1957 launch of the first ever orbital satellite by the USSR. Calling the Chinese launch pretty impressive from a technological perspective, Hyten said it was different from the Sputnik launch because it had created a sense of urgency in the U.S., while the July 27th test did not. I think it's probably, I think it probably should create a sense of urgency, he said. Advertising for Raytheon, a major U.S. missile manufacturer, was shown at the start of Hyten's CBS interview. I like how, and this is RT, of course, I like how they pointed that out. And that's one reason why I like RT. You're not going to get the believe it or not, the propaganda that you get out of the U.S. media. The most propaganda that I see on RT is propaganda against Russian citizens, not against us. It's much like the U.S., really, you know. The U.S. media propagandizes U.S. people, U.S. citizens. Russia just does the same thing to themselves. I would imagine, and just think about this for a moment. I would imagine that there's a fair chance that Russia and China could probably get a little bit more honest information from other countries' news than their own. I don't think it's really anything different, right? So anyway, got all that going on. Just absolute craziness. A lot of headlines, fair amount of them anyway, and fair amount of significant stuff today. I do think, just keeping on with my trend of how I've been doing this, I do think I'm standing behind what I've been saying as far as how I feel the rest of the week and the month is going to play out. Tomorrow I think is going to be a pretty steep day, if you will, and then of course Friday I think is going to be another slam. So the weekend I'm not so sure. Like I've said before, weekends are hard for me to kind of get a feel on, especially I can much better get a feel on the weekend on a Friday than what I could possibly on a Wednesday. But next week I just have a feeling it's going to be another doozy. I don't see it letting up. I don't see it letting up on into next month. So all the way on up into Christmas. I really don't. My gut tells me we're just going to keep sliding. And I'll repeat once again what I've said. I think Black Friday, or I'll better yet say it, the lack thereof Black Friday, is going to be monumental. I think it's going to be monumental. So I have a feeling that once they get the holidays squeezed by, then a lot of stuff is going to be just let free fall. So that's just that's what I see coming. That's what I'm seeing. Anyway, let me have a few sips of coffee, maybe a couple of vapes, and we'll get started on the headlines here. Yum yum. Pink Starburst. Alright. Let's see. You guys might want to see. I don't know why this thing is not wanting to function tonight. There it went. It's slow for some reason. Kind of like me. Alright. And I'll try to remember which ones I've covered and not repeat the headlines. Biden set to unfreeze Trump-era multi-billion-dollar F-35 deal. Covered that one. U.S. state representatives. Oh, nope. Covered that one. See how those were all in a row there? U.S. asked China to jointly steady oil prices, says a report. Biden puzzles journalists with comment on Olympics in China. Biden puzzles everybody with comments on what kind of ice cream is his favorite. Metaverse could become a $50 billion fashion and luxury market. Decathlon limits selling canoes. Decathlon limits selling canoes because of migrants. The emphasis has to be right, even if I can't say emphasis. Surge in Russian secret exports to NATO members. And I thought that was interesting because you know what? The U.S. is one of those countries that gets these secret exports. I can't make sense of that. We're getting weapons from Russia? Jews shocked to see Hitler images on Australian streets. Now, like this, I would say could possibly be a propaganda article. Now, why would they propagandize for the Australian government? I don't know. Why would they propagandize for the Hong Kong government? I mean, not the the Chinese government. What am I talking about? Well, back during, if you recall, all the Hong Kong protests that were going on, RT they were condemning the protests. And so they were taking a pretty pro-China stance on all of that. And so I think anybody with any common sense saw those protests and you know, especially coming from where we come from and what our country is supposed to mean, we saw that as a good thing. And so again, like with anything, you have to look for the stuff. You have to be discerning, and I think that's what this is. I think they're helping the Australian government propagandize against the because otherwise you wouldn't post an article like this. It's not what it is they're taking, what is that cat? I can't remember what position that guy's in. What they're doing, though, as you see on the picture, is they're taking a picture of the guy. They're making signs with it and putting, the Hitler mustache on him. Let's see. I thought I just saw who it was. It doesn't matter. But anyway, I just find that interesting, in my opinion. I think that's a good tactic. I think that's pretty accurate. So, no. Just me. Tesla rivals market value, skyrockets on production news. A nasal vaccine for Alzheimer's to be tested on people. I really hope that this has success. I do. Hey, it's not that I hate the medical community or I hate medicine. They do wonderful stuff, really wonderful stuff. They could do even much more wonderful stuff if they weren't so profit-based. But nonetheless, I cheer for the successes that they have, and I pray for their continued successes in defeating this stuff. My grandmother had Alzheimer's, and I know what it's like. My grandma lived with us until she reached such a point that she had to go into a nursing facility. Now, mind you, my mom was a CNA. So my mom took care of her at home up until the moment that my mom just could not do it anymore. And there was a point in time to where my grandmother, and I remember this, it seems so cruel to me, but I remember a point in time to where my mom had to tie my grandma down in the chair. And I remember the morning, what caused that, and that might be too part of why I remember it so vividly, but I remember getting on the school bus and, sitting down. The school bus takes off, drives past where I lived, and by the way, nobody was, we all, we were all, I don't remember exactly what age I was. I don't know if my oldest brother was graduated and, off in the either boot camp or deployed, but I believe my older brother was in school, and then, of course, I had to go to school. Dad was at work. Mom was at work. So Grandma would be there by herself. As the bus drove past the house, Grandma was on the front porch. By the way, I couldn't tell you what month it was, but there was snow and ice on the ground. Grandma was on the porch in her nightgown. So, luckily, I could get the bus driver to stop the bus and let me off. And of course, I ran home and called Mom. And as I recall, I think I stayed there or whatever that day, if I recall right. I can't remember exactly that much. I do remember getting off the bus. Mom might have took me to school after that. I don't know. I don't remember that. But nonetheless, that leaves a mark on you to experience that stuff, especially as a child. And it seems so cruel to me when Mom had to tie my grandma down so that she couldn't do that, so she couldn't get out. And it still seems cruel to me. I still question whether or not that was okay, because I don't know. What I do know is Alzheimer's is an absolute hell. And I'm sure maybe the person going through it might not know, but all of their loved ones, it really makes an impact on them. Like I said, my mom took care of my grandma until the moment that, she absolutely could not anymore. So I got to see all of the arguing with nobody. I got to see the screaming fights with nobody there. I got to see the quick transitions from one of those screaming fights to the sweet lady that I always recalled. And it's if we can get something like this, it's a win. It's a huge win. Again, I'm not against the medical community. I'm not against sound medical intervention. And I really pray that there is something to this. I pray that there's something to all of the different treatments, even the mushrooms, the clinical trials they're doing with that, if they're still doing them. Because the last I knew, they were having a fair amount of success with that. So, interesting stuff. Sorry I'd go on a big rant with that, but, it's one of those areas where, as a child, I have some kind of experience of what it's like to live with it. Let's see. Dozens of soldiers feared injured and killed in new Armenia-Azerbaijan fighting. Frequency of hacker attacks on health institutions and vaccine research revealed. Russia launches perfume that smells like a fighter jet. Now, I've got to be honest. I want it. I really want this bad. I do. I will be seeing if there's a way that I can get some. Without a doubt. Because I've got to have that. But it does ring a bell in my head too, because wasn't it India? There was another country that was making a perfume to celebrate communism. So, is this what governments do now? Is this the new bread and circuses? They're going to give us perfumes? But I do want this. Belarus announces temporary closure of oil pipeline to the EU. Trans athletes can compete with females without reducing testosterone, says the IOC. International Olympics of Corruption? Is that what it is? Something. Analyst predicts how far Bitcoin price could go. Mining giant unveils what world would need to go green. Lots and lots of pot seeds. France turns to ancient Greece for war on woke. No end in sight to COVID-19 pandemic, says the Kremlin. Russia moles giving men motherhood payments. Yeah, you got me. Sussex University probed over trans rights row. I don't want nothing to do with probing anything trans, but hey, do what you will, man. Just don't tell me about it. Russia obliged to defend Armenia in case of war with Azerbaijan, says Yerevan. Britain's eco-warriors sent to jail for road blockages. A music TV channel fined $14,000 for gay propaganda. This was in Russia. Here they promote it. Police reveal how long Liverpool taxi bomber was planning attack. Thousands of workers block key roads with burning cars. That sounds like a mostly peaceful protest. Poland warns EU migrant crisis could last for years. RT crew witnesses blood, hunger, and despair on Belarus-Poland border. Lukashenko has two demands to end EU migrant crisis, Estonia claims. Professor who wants to destigmatize pedophilia faces consequences. Yeah, I would hope so. Lots of them, please. Czechia rolls out new restrictions for unvaccinated. COVID jab compensation claims soar in Australia. Imagine that. Drug dealers and con artists threaten supply chains, says a report. They'll blame anything, won't they? Church of England reacts to claims it's linked to refugees tricking the system. Moscow mayor demands Russians replace migrants on city's building sites. A British F-35 jet crashes into the Mediterranean, says the Ministry of Defense. German media reveals jail terms for fake COVID certificates. Pregnant golfer Pregnant golf reporter fired by the PGA for not following COVID protocols. Biden's mental fitness increasingly worries voters, says a poll. EU explains how it wants to tackle deforestation. Capitol riots, QAnon shaman gets prison sentence. Shaman, sorry. Apple finally allows you to fix iPhones yourself. Kind of a little too late, too little too late, whatever. AI can predict which animals will spread mutated COVID. 10 killed and dozens wounded at Sudan anti-coup rallies, says medic. Drug overdose deaths in the U.S. hit an all-time record. That does not surprise me one bit. Not one bit, and I suspect it's probably going to get worse. One of the things that's happening, from my understanding, I absolutely have no ear to the ground when it comes to that stuff. Not anymore. Well, and I never did with this stuff. I never got into the hard stuff. But from my understanding, heroin, and I think I read an article about this not that long ago here. Heroin is becoming in short supply. The actual true heroin is becoming in short supply. And so what's largely out there in the market isn't really heroin, but it's fentanyl. And so it's not even a true heroin. So from my understanding, a true heroin is becoming a very, very pricey thing on the market. But most of what's going on is this fentanyl mix that somebody came up with. And that's what's really driving the overdoses through the roof. So it's apparently much easier to get the wrong amount, get a toxic amount, however you want to word it, a fatal amount with fentanyl because of just how powerful it is. That's some potent stuff. Ukraine offers citizens cash to get COVID-19 jabs. Pentagon's top general reveals whether China can hit the U.S. first. Oh, sorry, we did cover that. Cuomo could lose millions after ethics board revokes book approval. Schools can bar students without valid COVID-19 tests, Moscow court rules. Indian astronomers find exoplanet larger than gas giant Jupiter. Rittenhouse judge says media coverage of the trial is irresponsible and frightening. I would agree. Sweden rolling out COVID passes next month. Cover that one. Amazon threatens Visa customers with cutoff. Media narrative could sway Rittenhouse verdict, a Harvard law professor tells RT. Absolutely. Let's see. Boris Johnson's sister reveals his secret history with Epstein Madam. That might turn into something interesting. Kamala Harris is no longer border czar, a Texas Democrat says. Or he said she is no border czar, not no longer. Sorry. She's probably still that role by title, but never has taken that role by action. Let's see. We went over that one. Psaki blames sexism and racism for criticism of Kamala Harris. Yeah, because that's what it is. Congress censures Republican Gosser for violent anime video with Biden. And that looks to be the headline. Yay. All right. Well, on that note, I am going to get the heck out, and God willing, we'll be back tomorrow. We'll do it again. Close up this week, and I hope to see you there. So I hope you have a good rest of your evening and a good tomorrow, and we'll talk to you soon. As always, God bless you. We love you. Be one with your spirit, and shalom.